This video will show you how to put together these simple and easy Easter baskets. They are SVG files from Simply Crafty SVGs. So this file is one of my earliest files, so I thought I'd take the time to make a quick video because it's really a simple project. This little Easter basket, you just need to make sure it cuts out well on your machine. When you do the cuts, I mean, this is done with a StarCraft Solo, but it can be done easily with Cricut. If you're having troubles with this, it could be the paper or the intricate settings. You can do it intricate cut. So anyways, but nobody's really complained ever with this particular design. So what I would do first is just to take this. So we have the labels in here. So we have, or the panels, I should say. So this is for that, and then these two little ones. There's also a little oval. You can put whatever you want or nothing on the front. But I use my software to do Happy Easter and just print and cut it. But you don't have to put anything on the front at all. And then I'm going to use these brads to attach the handle. So, and there's two different handle types. So these are the bottom panels. I just didn't have them in view. And the two different handles you can use. You can use either one, so it's not both. Or you can layer them like this if you really wanted to. So that would be fun. So we might just do that. Just because here's a version with just the open one. Like that. Or you could just use the solid or both. Just to get a different look. So this is what the finished one looks like. This is the front. So it's just a nice little Easter basket, and I put some little flower brads, and I'll be using the same brads on this blue one. So if you haven't been exposed to brads, you can get them pretty much anywhere, but I have a collection of them. So over from the last 15 years. So this is from my little collection. So I'm not even sure where I got that. So all we want to do is fold this first, and the reason I want to fold that, you want to do it carefully, and get really crisp folds, it just helps to place and center the bigger panels. The smaller panels we'll be using the hole to guide it. If you don't have brads, you could use, I'm just carefully doing this here. So if you don't have this, just skipped a little bit. So let's get this. But if you don't have brads, you could glue them on. So don't worry if you don't have brads. The handles. We'll go over that in the section. So I'm just making sure that these are good and folded first. It looks like it didn't score as deep as I hoped. So if you needed to, you could always use a bone folder to fold a little bit deeper in one of these. Just don't have it out and about for me. So this always helps. And then before we put it together, we'll go ahead and add the panels, but I really want to ink the panels first. So I'm going to put these up here. And then we're going to take these panels, and I think I'm going to use this. So you could really use any ink. I'm just going to use an ink that goes with the color, so it's going to be a blue ink. So I selected, I'm going to be using these little iCrafter finger brushes, which are good for doing like small pieces for me. And I'm going to be using Distress ink. So I'm going to go ahead, and I don't like to get ink on my table, so I usually just get a spare piece of paper because I always have scraps and put it underneath. And then I'll go ahead and ink the edges. So if you want to play around, I would play around with your ink on a spare piece of paper if you're going to do this, so you know how each of your inks blends. For me, this is Distress ink, and I use Distress Oxide. So Distress Oxide blends a little bit better. So you just kind of have to make sure that you don't just go right onto the panel right away. Okay, so this is Faded Jeans. I looked around and I tested until I found a color I liked. So you can use, I've used cheap ink too. So on the pink one, I I showed you, I used some really old color box inks. Color box is not even in business, unfortunately, anymore. It was one of my favorite inks on the market. Just the, I'm not 100% on one ink. I do like Distress Oxides and Distress Ink. I have a ton of these little things right here, so I just use what I have. So if you have some cheap ink, you theoretically could do the same thing. Now, why am I inking the edges? It just kind of gives it a nice edge to it, especially if you print it. So if you can kind of see, some people like to go a little bit more in with their ink, and it just depends on your preference. So I'm going to go ahead and finish these, and then we'll go ahead and put them on. So now we have these inked on the edges. So we'll go ahead and take this big piece and start adding the different panels. So I'm using Barely Art Glue. I like Art Glitter Glue and Barely Art Glue. Barely Art Glue does not freeze during the winter. I mean, I don't need that. I don't have that problem with me right now because I live in Texas, but some people have that issue. But I really like it. They're very similar. Then I'm just going to center this. So this is a super easy basket to put together. Do this too. And if you do like this project, or any of our projects, I always ask if you could give us a like on our video and or subscribe to our channel if you have not already done so. And if you hit that little bell to the right of subscribe, you'll be notified when we have new projects and or tutorials content on YouTube. So when you put these side panels, these little panels on, you want to line up that hole to the hole there. So I'm just going to line it up. Also making sure that on the left and right it's centered. So don't worry again if you don't have a brad. What you could always do is put like a little enamel dot over it. Or just glue it with the hole there. So when you glue it over, because we're going to just put a brad through there, you could put like a little enamel dot or something like that, or a little rhinestone. That would work too. Those are very easy to get. Or, the rhinestone stickers, that too. But we have dimensional stickers that are good, like pearl stickers, that kind of thing. You can get those at least in the U.S. from like the dollar stores. I know it's different in different countries. So once we have those on, I'm going to hold off. You can see I put a coordinating. I actually did a print and cut with this coordinating color, so it'd pop out. So we'll add that at the end. I'm not even sure if I'm going to add it, honestly. The color's a little bit off for that, but so I just may just omit it, but just letting you know that's in there. You never know until you get all the paper together whether it's going to look the way you want. At least I just didn't put them together. I should have done that. So I'm going to add glue to the side tab, and then I'm going to carefully line this edge up to the tab fold. And then apply pressure. So we're almost done. So we have only the bottom part and the handle to do. So what I would like to do here, you could add glue to all the tabs at once, but I'm kind of fold them out a little bit. I actually only need one or two out, but I'm going to go ahead and add glue to this big piece, and then one of the little ones to the left and right of it. I'm going to fold them in. And this is a sturdy basket because we have two panels are on the ground, on the bottom of it, on the ground. So let's go ahead and line this up. So we're going to line that long piece, and I'm putting the non-textured side of this AC American Crafts textured cardstock. Putting the non-textured part down to glue onto the inside of the tab. So I'm just lining up this edge to that fold in the tab, and then just pushing it in, make sure they're lined up and these edges line up into the folds. So on the bottom, it'll look like that. So I'm just going to flip this up. So this is a really simple way to get into box making. It's a really easy project. So I'm going to add glue to the rest of them. So I just pulled them slightly up to get glue underneath. Get that excess glue off and push them down. And then just go around from where I started, around each edge to get that panel glued in. And on the bottom we'll have the tabs we'll be able to see, so we'll add this. So unfortunately, make sure you get enough pressure. Unfortunately, it's not going to sit like just because of this little thing that juts up in the front. So we're going to go ahead and add glue to the bottom and put that panel on to hide the tabs. Line it up. Once you have it lined up, you can go flip it upside down, just apply pressure from inside. So the only thing left is to add the handle. So as I mentioned before, we have two different variations of the handle. You can do the handle, make sure that's all good. You can do a handle like this, or you can do the solid one. Or the third option is to glue these together. So the only thing I hazard to you, I'm not going to glue them together. When you glue them together and you start bending it, if they're not well glued together, you're going to see gaps. So, but you could do that. It's kind of a fun look, and you could do it two-tone if you wanted. So you could add a different color and change the color of the solid one or the top one. Okay. So we're going to do this one. So we're going to take these two brads, and you could curl this a little bit just like this to get the curl going, but it's really not that necessary. I mean, this is even a thicker. I went the wrong way. Make sure your texture's on the top. This is a textured cardstock that's pretty, it's not ultra thick, but thick enough. I like the brads because we can just put them in. If you don't like seeing it, you always cut a little piece of like a rectangular paper, just cut a little scrap and cover it. But once you have it full, it's just, this was intended to be like something quick you could use for Easter. Make a bunch of them at once. I'm going slow, but honestly, if you cut a bunch of them, it would go pretty fast in a environment where a bunch of them are being made at once. And then like that. So the brads are great because they can rotate once you get them in there. Some people just don't like to see the prongs. And don't do it really tight if you want it to go back and forth. So if you glue it down, unfortunately, just make sure it's a little looser so those don't move underneath whatever you glue. But that's why I kind of keep them open. So there you go. So that's it. We just now has the room for a little bit of Easter goodies. And I hope you enjoyed this project, and I thank you so much for watching.